President Udall claims that the media's focus on executive compensation and perks is a diversion from the issue. Isn't discouragement of protests on UC campuses and transfer of all the blame to Sacramento a diversion from valid concerns over the lack of budget transparency and poorly prioritized spending within the UC system?
So what we would hope is that, let me say, we're very much in favor of budget transparency. So I encourage you, I think that's a very important thing, because the more you know about the budget, and more all of us know about the budget and how it's created, the better we can impact those who are the decision makers on the budget, the regents and the legislature. So a couple of things about this. The budget of the university is decided, it comes out in an information item, it's published in an information item in September, it's debated and discussed for 2 months and then voted on in November. So it's a public document for everybody to be able to see. By law, it's public. Second, that goes to the legislature, and that's where the funding decision takes place. And it's critically important, I would just say that it's critically important that we work with those decision makers who actually vote on how much money there is to support your education and all the other things the university does. It's critical that we concentrate our attention on those people who have those decisions to make. We're all for transparency. I'm totally in favor of it, and I want that to be the case. But I also want to make sure that this particular crisis, what we're talking about here, this particular crisis is a funding crisis and a deprioritization of the university in Sacramento, and that's the place where we need to focus our energy if we, in fact, are going to address this particular crisis. I appreciate your question. Thank you.
But what about the discouragement of protests here on campus, the direct actions? I mean, you've had people taking down our signs when they're concerning us. Yeah, police taking down the signs when they have to do with actions on campus.
So I don't know about that, and yeah, what I just said is I don't. So I didn't know about that, and maybe you could say a word about that since we have a policy comment. I don't know about that. But let me just say this, just to be clear. We support the level to which we support free speech at this campus is known around the country. There are, it's absolutely known around the country. I mean, that's something that we're actually proud of. That's something actually that we're proud of, that you have a chance to share your voices and to share your concerns. And that's been a proud tradition. There are people sharing their voices and sharing their concerns routinely on this campus. We're here tonight with you because we want to hear from you. So we do that actively. We work hard, truly, to protect your ability to speak freely, to learn new things, and to make up your mind. So that's a critical part of what we do. But the police chief may wish to say something about signs. I don't know about that. So.
You have 1 minute. Sorry.
All right. I'm Paul Hennessy. I'm the police chief here on campus. Let me address your question. I don't specifically know the circumstances that you're talking about. We do, as a matter of course, work with student affairs and student conduct in terms of removing anything that's posted that would be inappropriate, would be offensive. Now, there would be circumstances that I can't particularly address. However, I will say this, that if you have a specific incident which you have a complaint about, or you feel that it was removed inappropriately, we do have a means, and I am more than happy to look into a specific complaint and address those. And if we have a training issue, if we have another aspect that we need to look at in terms of how we do it, I'm more than happy to look at it. This is the first I've heard of this particular aspect.
Justine?
Hi, so a friend of mine asked an officer at the UCLA Regents meeting, why are you wearing the bulletproof vest? You're the one with the guns. So my question is, do you feel that it is necessary to arm the police department in riot gear while UCI students conduct a peaceful protest?
Let me address it in this manner. There really are two broad categories of protests, demonstrations, events that occur on campus. The first category are those that occur within university regulations. Our role, and as everybody knows here, we've had many controversial events covering the entire spectrum. We've had a number of issues where we've had people that have wanted to protest, perhaps even interrupt those who are doing that presentation, that demonstration that is within the university regulations. We're there to, number one, ensure that they can have their presentation, their demonstration. There are then events that cross that line, that go into where they are violating university policy or violating laws. In that particular circumstance, we are also responsible for taking some degree of action. We have a responsibility for public safety. We have a responsibility for also ensuring that business operations of the university can continue uninterrupted. So one of the things that we have to do is try to find that balance between making sure that we've got safety and security at those events, protests, demonstrations that meet with our within university regulations, but also that we can respond appropriately in those circumstances which may cross that line, and that we're still ensuring that public safety exists and that university business operations continue. Thank you.
Good evening, Chancellor Drake. I think it's important that we respect Chancellor Drake because he's a mediator, he's the messenger, so we do not want to kill, kill the messenger. Yeah, I just want to say I'm all about respect, and he needs to be respected. He's our chancellor. My question is this: as a biological science student, a lot of the professors right now are facing a lot of turmoil with TAs because we don't have enough funding. We have 300 people per lecture, and so a lot of the professors are struggling with even small things like passing out quizzes per se. I just want to know how that's being addressed because, it's a big strain and a lot of the courses are being completely rearranged. As a biological science major, what concerns me is these are the future doctors of America. I mean, we're going to be taking care, I'm not sure if I'll be a doctor yet, but we're going to be taking care of your health. These are people that need to be, taught efficiently and not, second rate. So I just want to know how that's going to be treated.
So I think those are very important points. I went to medical school, as you know, and those things are very, very important. I remember lessons that I learned then that served me well throughout my career as a clinician and throughout my academic career. These are critical things. And I mentioned before, I'll say again, that the gold standard, the quality of your education is what we're all here to protect. It's why we do this as a living. So these particular cuts, the constraints on the university, $70 million taken out of our university in 1 year. We're not able to conduct business as usual. The Regents, I was asked to speak before the Regents in July of last year and then asked to speak before them again in September to help convey the message of the harm that these cuts would bring to the University of California. And part of the message that I brought was that we harm the University of California, actually that's okay, but we also are harming the future of people who need to be the future leaders of our state. We harm the state when we do that, we harm the nation. The engine of energy and innovation that has come from the University of California is what has made California great. And I'd say if you look at the UC of 1940, you saw what turned into the California of 1960. And the UC of 1960 was what turned into the California of 2000. And the UC of today is what's going to be the California of tomorrow. And if we want that California to be the California that we know and love, we have to make sure that we protect its future by protecting its most valuable resource, which is the minds of its young people. So that is the reason this is so important. And some of you have different ideas about who might do what and whatever else. Let me say again that I have spent a tremendous amount of time working with legislators in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C. And I will say that I know many of them well, and hearing from constituents about what's important to them matters to them. They actually, I don't want to say anything good about politicians, but they don't want to do a bad job. And when they have real information and understand what's really happening, it helps them to make the right decisions that help us. And moving that needle a little bit helps us a lot. And so for biology, which has been impacted this year, to not be impacted as much next year, the real important thing is collaborative advocacy between now and June, so we can do the most we can to move forward. I see, let me say, light at the end of the tunnel. I see this as light. We're not nearly there. This is a quarter of the cuts being restored, but it moves us in the right direction and puts us in the place where we can go forward. I think that's critical. Thank you.
I'll just say one last thing. I think instead of, there's a lot of anger in the room right now, instead of directing the anger towards Chancellor Drake, I think it'd be more productive, just coming from my standpoint, to perhaps use that anger and write to your legislators instead of attacking.
Sorry. We have to switch to the next question, but thank you.
Yes.
Dear Chancellor, thank you very much. Before I ask my question, I'd like to say that unfortunately I find your answers so far that they have been heavy on elevated adjectives and a lot of promises of good intentions, but yet I failed to hear anything that you actually asked me the question that is not for you. But so my question is, one of the focal points of the student struggle against administration of access to boards, and that had been long before the budget passed, was the outsourcing.